Hello, everyone. This is Michaela from Joy Inc., and you're listening to the End All the Things podcast. As a life coach and facilitator, I work with individuals and groups to empower their best selves to shine to the betterment of all involved. My goal is always to bring you closer to trusting the voice inside of you that is authentically yours. My job here is no different. In my journey through life, I continue to meet people who use their authenticity, their gifts, to grow, change, and serve through professional and personal endeavors. These people and their stories become my gift to you, for I cannot keep a good thing to myself, and I believe that they may inspire a part of your story to evolve. In the spirit of not keeping a good thing to myself, I would be remiss as a coach, a friend, a colleague, a person you listen to through a podcast, if I did not introduce you to my coach, my healer, my true gift to the ability I've harnessed to grow, to change, and to serve. Today, I offer you Wanda Harris and All the Things. This is a conversation that could take hours and hours and hours, but we did it in under 1 hour. And I invite you to open your mind and think about, what questions do you need to ask yourself? What perspective do you need to bring into your story? And where are you in the balance between fate and free will? We cover all this and so much more as we explore the Nameless technique, as we explore Wanda, and as we share some of my journey and the vulnerabilities that I've worked through. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right, you good?
Yes.
So today we have a truly special guest for you. This is a person who has been beyond influential in my experience. So short of rambling on and on, because you're going to get to understand why as we explore this conversation, but I proudly introduce to you Miss Wanda Harris. Wanda is my coach. She is my healer. She is my source of joy and inspiration when I get a little lost in the world. But Wanda, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are? What it is that you are called here to do in your time on Earth? And how do I fit into that story?
Okay, I'm so glad to be here, number one, always. And I, when people ask me this particular question, I always start to try to dig up something and go, oh, well, who am I? What am I? What am I doing here? Sometimes we may ask that question in ourselves, what are we all doing here? And I want to sum it up really with something that may be really kind of simple, but I'm going to try to shorten it up a little bit. It feels as though that I am here to present something called the nameless technique. And what that means is that it's a technique that you can't really name. And the only reason probably, or what's behind that, is because everything we do in this world is a mixture of a lot of labels.
Yeah.
And when we label something, we really then put it in a box and we only give it that label that we know. So the mind, the ego part of the mind is really is very smart, and it really will start to hold us in a box.
And attached, really
yes,
attached to and own
yes,
that thing.
yes.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. And so what it does is it kind of labels that, and then we cannot seem to get out of that we have now became accustomed to, or habitual, a formula with that. And then the Nameless technique became that because we could really now get out of that. So we won't be able to say, oh, that does that. This is what she does here. I don't really know what it is that it feels that I'm doing here. Yet I know one thing only, that it represents a message or a healing or an opening. So people can really realize the real innate truth about their nature. And how you and I met, I guess, through a friend of a friend. and the journey just kept expanding. That's what happened. I call it in holy relationships. I'm using the word holy not because it can be labeled to Christianity or this. Holy just means an experience of something that has a higher accolade to it, and it represents the best of both things, unison in one. Let's just get right to what that holy means. People think when they
Mhm.
hear that word, oh my goodness, that means there's a spiritual. This it's tacked to some religion. No,
Well,
no.
that's the labeling. That's
Yes,
the labeling, and then we put such a fine point on it that if I'm saying holy and you're saying holy, it has to come from the same experience.
yes,
When in
yes, yes,
reality, it's the you've said it before. My pastor Lethelma says it, when more than two are gathered, right? That is where we commune, that is where the spirit lives. And
yes,
I mean, it lives within us, of course, but when we label it, we put a barrier between that holiness, between that sacred
yes,
space or the opportunity for that.
yes,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yes. Keep
And thank you.
going.
Um, and then you and I, it was time to connect. We connected. Uh, and it appears that it's larger than what we do on the sessions when I'm with you. It is just multidimensional, which really shows that everything is not labeled. If we would have labeled one arena, we would have just stayed in that one arena.
Yep.
And nobody needs to be in one arena. We all are these beings of just so much expansion there. When we realize that and have the supportive energy behind it, then it really just starts to take directions that we don't know, we can't see. Yeah. So
No, and that's so true. We're for frame of reference, we're talking about maybe 6 years ago when we first connected.
is it? Was it that? Well, oh my
Maybe
goodness, it's been
five.
like
I don't
a decade.
know. Again, like
Wow.
everything on time, right? Who knows what time is? But
Yes.
it's when I met you, I remember thinking, I need to show up and truly demonstrate my full spiritual self. And I have all the answers. And because I wanted to be fuller than I was, but I was
Uh-huh.
so afraid to say, I'm not actually feeling very full and I don't really know these answers. But what you did that day, and I think we were at like a Chili's or something,
Yes, yes, we were.
um, you just kept saying, you don't have to know the answer. You don't have to know the answer today. But the invitation to the questions, right? And the space to say it's okay not to know the answer.
Yes.
That kind of, for those listening, that kind of encapsulates the nameless technique. It's you don't know the answers in my head and heart, but I don't either. I have to be asked the question so that I can come up with the answer, right? And for those of you who have been paying attention, you'll know that I talk a lot about the question, what are you tolerating? And while you may have asked me that a few times, it was
Mhm.
you that created the space for me to even have the vision for a life with fully embodying joy, right? You said to me at the right time, you said, what are you tolerating? And my answer was a life without joy. I am tolerating a life without joy. It's big, beautiful, and wonderful, and I am not involved. I am disengaged. But it's having those questions put in front of me that
Mhm.
let me rename myself, right? I had to
Mhm.
shift out of this, I know all the answers and I am always prepared and I can handle anything, to, huh, what if I don't know the answers? But what if that's the joy, the journey and the finding of it? Yes, things are great. Yes, things are hectic, but that was for all intents and purposes the
Mhm.
foundation of what
Mhm.
would be Joy Inc. And the idea that we can incorporate joy back in and we can build it into the story. So where you call it nameless,
Yeah.
yes, but that's because we are always meant to continue to identify and
Yes.
re-identify ourselves, right?
Yes.
I hope to never stop
Well, let me
answering the question.
let me say this. And yet you were you brought that to you. So it was you who
Yep.
was you ignited that. You really brought that in. You really encouraged that to happen. I always say there's a step before the step. Uh, to really bring in the step. So I have to thank you for that, because I always tell people that it is no me without you and no you without me. There is no one without the other.
Mhm.
It's all a unison. And when we get a chance to see that, to come to realization, um, in the connection with two people, there are two things going on.
Mhm.
There is on both sides a learning and a receiving. Both sides,
Yep.
all the time, all the time. Yeah.
And one of the things you say often is that every encounter is a healing encounter, divinely seen, right? It's
Yes.
the idea, you know, for me, I hold that as this situation may suck. This may not be fun for me right
Right.
now. But the reality is, it's not going anywhere
Yes.
unless I shift and I change. And it has been such a transformation, one that I am still on, learning
Yes, we
how
all are.
to pause,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
say, you know, how do I want this to result? And again, that's become foundational in my coaching practice.
Yes.
So what you all will find is I have learned so much from you, right?
Mm.
I have been given so much permission in our space to become, right?
Mm.
How do you manage keeping yourself safe and boundaried when you work so intimately and so closely with people, right?
That's a really, really good question.
It's big
Let me
work.
think.
It's
Wise
big
people.
work.
Yeah. Look, uh, you see, here is what I come in. There are things we know, there are things that we do know. And there's one thing that I know for sure, that I'm not meeting anybody in a lessened state than myself.
Mhm.
I already see their perceived competence. I know that the meeting or the encounter is already in that healing moment that we're talking about. So it's almost like I don't have to do anything to say, okay, I got to stay in this point, or this has to happen. When I go into it, I'm already in that mode before the happenings happen. And
Yep.
in that, and we all are all the time, we just forget
Mhm.
that we don't have to dress anything up when you are being led by your innate nature there. Everybody has it.
Tell
I
me
tell
more
people,
about that.
yeah.
Explain that a little
And
further.
okay. And I talk a lot about, you and I spoke about free will, which comes up right here in this moment. In other words, we have everything we need already. So what that means, some people may ask, well, no, I don't. I don't have enough money. I don't have the car. I don't have the home. We have um, the connection of feeling uh, that oneness and that freedom internally without those things already manifesting. So we don't have to jump out to get that to produce an effect. We already are the effect. So it's almost like, okay, so now I'm going to grab these things, but you already have this internal um uh happiness or insight already before you go and receive these things. Those things are enhancers, or just not really an enhancer. They just come along for the ride. Let's say that. And so free will uh gives us a chance to be able to create what we want to create and uncreate what we don't want to have.
Mhm.
Um,
So, but
and
the
what,
argument there, is, well, I can't change anything, and I've done my best, and this is the lot that I've been given. I don't have any choice. And I disagree with that, right? And in our conversations, I love the idea that as you talk about the perceived competency,
yes,
we already are enough. We don't
yes,
need the external validation of climbing the ladder or getting the car or doing the things, right?
yes,
What
Yes.
we need, the free will comes from listening to that divine gift inside. The free
Yes.
will comes from identifying that we aren't a name, that we aren't a thing. We just have to listen, right? So
Exactly.
when the world starts like happening to us and we
Hmm.
feel like we've lost our free will and we're just fated to, despair, right? That's where we say, well, what lane are you in? What are you headed for? And is that what you really want? Right. For me, when we started, I don't even know what I thought I wanted, but I thought I was trying to do it all for the right reasons.
Yes.
And what I found is I was dying inside, right? Like I
Yes.
was just suffering and struggling, when a shift in perspective, an additional bit of agency here and
Hmm.
there, and
Hmm.
I was able to say, I like this and I don't like this. I want this and I
Yes.
don't want that. And it may have been on a small scale, but I decided that I could impact my own free will to benefit my fate, because my fate is already decided, because I'm a magical divine creature here to bring forth my gift. That's my fate,
Yes.
right? How I
And
get there, I'm going to listen to the voice inside that's mine, you know?
now the keynote, you just said something here. The voice inside of you that is yours. A lot of times we are living in somebody else's voice. Somebody else's
Say
voice.
that again.
Oh my goodness. We even myself, we have been listening to everybody else's voice except ours. So how do you know what's your voice? Now, here's one thing that people can, this is what I mean about free will. When you start to tap into the you, this really the you, not the veiled of illusion you. We know that that happens all the time. Um, so when you are uncomfortable, that is a signal that I am going against something that truly is not me.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't realize that one thing there. Okay. For an example, just say that my mother, when I was growing up, maybe she wanted me to be an executive or whatever, but that wasn't really me, but that was for her that she did not do. So she
Mm-hmm.
put that on me. I projected, picked it up or whatever. Um, and I get jobs that I don't fit in. It's always hectic. I'm not feeling good there. That is my signal to know there. Hello, Wanda. Hmm. Is this is this where you need to be, or whose voice is that? So when those um difficulty moments are uncomfortable, it's just a signal to say, okay, just take a look, not to cripple you, not to judge you. How would we know if these things weren't here?
That's
They
right.
are a guided, they are our guide so we can look in. It's not to really make us feel bad. Uh don't look, hide it. No, it's there, but we're taught
Right.
not to feel. We're taught probably not to experience. Okay, if you're feeling bad, go buy some clothes. If you're
Yeah.
feeling bad, go out to dinner. If you're feeling bad, go do this, go do. No, you can, yet take the moment that you feel uncomfortable with and let it be your teacher. Everything is a healing encounter, divinely seen. But I must wake up to know that. Now, if
Right.
people don't want to wake up, that's fine too. Yet, you want to wake up to know it is here to support you. It is here so you can see. If I just step back and go, oh my goodness, what is this telling me about this job that I'm in? Oh, is this really what I want to be doing? How do I feel when I come here? I'm going to start to get in touch with this may not be for me, but I got to be okay. I got to be okay with getting in touch with what's not, what doesn't feel okay. But we're
Yep.
taught in the world, no, no, don't feel properly, but we're coming out of that now.
Don't
So,
feel, don't acknowledge. And,
yes,
when we do, when
yes,
people do acknowledge their weaknesses, and I'm using air quotes on that one, right? That's how culture calls it. This is a weakness.
yes.
But you're right. We aren't going to find it by buying the skin creams. Yeah, some of them are important, but we don't need 17 of them that cost hundreds of dollars each. Like, that's not self-care. That's
Yeah.
just part of expensive hygiene, right? Self-care, self-care is way
Yes.
more than skin deep, and I
Yeah.
don't think that we recognize that. So we go through life thinking, well, if I do the skin cream, everything will be fine.
Yes.
But it's all of that, whether it's the skin cream or if it's alcohol or other distractions, without the perspective of saying, well, why are you doing that? Did you get the
Yes.
results you wanted? Would you do
Yes.
it again? Right?
Yes.
We don't have that. So we think that life is just happening to us because we don't take control of it. Um, and you, for me, have helped me build a life that I don't want to escape from, right? In this time that we've been working together,
Mm-hmm.
I have gone from a faded flower to very proudly a bright, shining, blossoming flower, unsure yet of which direction to point, but I'm just going to keep going where the sun leads, right? I
Yes.
have put myself in a stable position in a job that was very wonderful and powerful and benefiting, but also very hurting to my insides. You helped
Mm-hmm.
me build a position there that I could then exit from.
Mm-hmm.
You have helped me build my business. You
Mm-hmm.
helped me, my entire family gets to
Mm-hmm.
spend time with you.
Yeah.
Um, and all of that has been done without you telling me ever what to do,
That is true. I was
ever.
just sitting here thinking, did we ever?
Never once. And
Mm,
so I say that
wow.
I did not do this alone, right? This is
Mm,
we are doing this together, but to your point, we're using beautiful divine intervention, but it's all been my choice. I have chosen with my free
yes.
will to answer the call. You said to me one time, are you willing to be a co-creator in what is it? Are you willing to be a co-creator in your purpose or something to
Yes.
that effect?
Yes.
And I
Yes.
was like, yes, I can do that.
Yes.
But it's the perspective. And
Yes.
now I'm not nameless specifically, but I will continue to name myself and I will continue
Yes.
to take off labels like perfect,
You
like
know,
all that's tied to that word. I am my perfect, messy, oops, I forgot that, but don't worry, I'm going to nail this self. Um,
yes.
and that's all been questions in a safe space where I have been able to move toward my fate, right? My
Yes.
fate is to bring my gift to the world. That's our
Yes.
fate. That is what we were all here to do, I believe. Um, so it's perspective, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
all the
Mm-hmm.
questions. Um, what do you do? So we're having this conversation about
Mm-hmm.
divine and a little ethereal and knowing without knowing, but and that might sound a little frothy to people, right?
Mm-hmm.
A little up
Mm-hmm.
in the bubbles.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Um, but yet, I don't think it's frothy.
Yes.
Um, but yet you work with high power executives
Mm-hmm.
doing work in this way. How do you bridge that gap? Because that's something I can see corporate America, if you will, to for lack of a better word, talking about mindfulness, talking about
Yes.
emotional intelligence, but I don't know how deeply rooted that is in the individuals. So how do you get to that level? And we're stereotyping, okay? I'm
Mm-hmm.
totally
Mm-hmm.
stereotyping that
Sure. Of
there's this corporate
course.
executive
Mm-hmm.
avatar, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get into that with some of this frothy stuff?
It's interesting because a lot of people ask me, when I work with different people, wealth advisors or people in the corporate world, besides, people who are not in the corporate world. I see them, number one, as this one unison with everything. I don't come into it in a separational mind gap with myself, first of
They're
all.
just being
Yes. And because
energy
if
in a
I
body.
did, then guess what I would be doing? Then I had to put them in a box and go, oh, okay, okay. So now I see they are different. And no, it's just not that it's difference. It's just another variation of a variation of a variation.
Right.
Yet the tree, remember there, it's a grounding tree, but there are billions of branches on that tree.
Okay.
Number one, I don't see it as separation, first of all. And I don't see them as that position can be that position. To me, all positions are unison, one connection, many ways, but it's
Mhm.
still that one unity.
Do you
Um,
say that to them?
do I say it to
Do
them?
you say that in like a corporate executive setting that we are all one unison?
Oh no, what I do is this. Here's how if I depends on what is how open their position is internally.
Mhm.
And this is something about the Nameless technique that usually happens. Um I'm able, or not I'm able, I don't want to say I anything, but it is able, or this, what I'm bringing to the world with this, it is able to really fine tune exact what that exact person may need to know or say. So I don't know really how that kind of happens. I wish that, but it just comes
Yep.
through me to happen, the happening for it. I
Yep.
wish I could give the
You
information
just
on how
meet
that
them where you
happens, but
are.
I can't because it's beyond. And then
But
what
you,
happens, just to have a conversation with maybe somebody named John. I'll just use John for instance. And maybe John is a corporate executive, and if John is having difficulty in his business or landing clientele or creating his business, I know that the heart of that John just needs to open up to serve more in the business. And actually, so I use that as the mechanism so John could look at what he's doing. John, well, how are you serving? Now, when you're serving, are you serving in a way that you feel good, or are you serving just to make sure you land the client? Because if you're serving the way that you feel good, you don't have to convince the client. It's a servicing energy, because number one, they are not disconnected from servicing energy either.
yep.
So this is how I look at that picture. I'm glad you asked that, because a lot of people ask me that.
Mhm.
And I said, no, I just see a variation. Yet I know if it's something they're not receiving, they are it's something that they are not giving. So I just
Mhm.
sort of verge there for a second, and not to have someone to think, oh, I'm not giving enough. No, if you want something, you must be a part of that activation in order to receive it. Doesn't mean how much. It can be, it doesn't have a price on what that is. I'll give you a little story here. I don't call people clients. I call them miracle mates, because everybody is a miracle mate to me, and that's how
We
I
are
see it.
all
You
in this
bring miracles,
together.
so I use the word miracle mates. Everybody, and there was a miracle mate that I was having a session with, and she said she wasn't having enough stimuli of abundance. And we all know in the world. So I said to her, let's jump out of that for a second. I would like for her to be a something I call a participant and an observer. You've heard me speak of this. So I said to her, okay, let's be an observer for a moment. Jump out of the participant. I want you to be an observer for just 1 second. We're going to put it on the table. We're going to act like that's Maddie's story, but we're going to be an observer to her story. And I said to her, so now we, as an observer, we know now there is not a shortage of money in America. Now, how do we know this? They are paying actors and actors millions. Let's just look at, we're not, and I don't want to single them out. I'm going to pick them out, actors and actors, dancers, the whole, whatever. We know that there's not a shortage. That clearly shows you that it's not a shortage.
Yep.
We may not be in the energy of receiving it, but there's not a shortage. We had that clear. She said, yes. I said, okay. I said, now since we're clear about that, I said, name about 10 people who she couldn't stop naming. I said, okay, give me a, then I went to the fields of curriculums of, yeah, so we know there's no shortage. I said, okay. And she said, but okay. I said, but now you're feeling somewhere that there is. So then I asked her, let's go back into being a participant. She said, yes. I said, okay, so I'm going to give you just something to do for 5 days, maybe 7, but 5 is good. I said, I want you, if you're using a credit card when you pay for things, or you use cash, doesn't matter. But I want you to, as you drive around, or if you're looking at things, I want you to notice what you can buy. I want you to see something you can buy, but I want you to say, wow, I really, I can buy that, but I'm not going to get it. I said, so I want you to do that for at least 5 or 7 days. I said, I just want you to don't purchase it. Just say, oh, it can be maybe a tray on a table. I don't care. Something you see or you have come across, during the week. I can buy that. The key word was here. I can buy that, but I don't want it.
Mhm.
So after about 7 days, and we had a call again, she goes, "You're not going to believe that, I attracted a client." I said, "Oh, yeah, because you felt you can be prosperous.
Yep.
So you have to feel it before it happens. You can't just go, I got to wait till it happens. No, oh my goodness. No, no, no.
Yep.
She brought it in. She had to have a feeling. And that's what I see with everybody, the feeling of the competency. Nobody I meet is incompetent. Everybody is competent. They have it. I come with it with
Yep.
that. Yeah.
And it's one of it's a two-part thing, right? We have
Yes.
to start believing. We have to
Yes.
create the vibration of our
Yes.
belief and change the language, but at the same time, she had to be actively thinking about enough money, actively thinking about
I
having a
feel good.
choice,
I can buy it.
actively involved.
I
I
feel
could have
good.
that. I just choose not to.
Yes. I
And
feel
at
good.
the
I can
same
get it.
time,
Yes.
still moving forward in the business, right?
Yes.
Like you
Yes.
cannot just sit home
No.
and think about and go on to QVC and look for things to buy and choose not to buy them and think everything is going to change, right?
Yes.
This is the fate and the free will. We are
Sure.
fated to have abundance, but we also have to make action and belief, put the thought process, change the mentality, because that's what breeds the manifestation, right? That's what brings the thing to life. So I love that story because where we get so stuck in a name, it might be, I'm always broke,
Yes.
right?
Don't
That's
have
a
enough.
name. That's an identity. And if
Yes.
I truly believe that, guess what I'm going to be? Always
Yes.
broke,
Always broke.
right? But if it's, well, I just don't have the money I want right now, but what am I willing to do to get it? What can I do to get it? What can I enjoy with what I have? How do I savor what I have? And being appreciative of that instead of naming it as something that's already negative,
Label it. Yes. Because it's going to
right?
put you in the box.
Then now
Yeah.
we get to say, well, now what could I be called?
What can I
Right?
do? Yes.
You're so good. It's so funny that your thing is the nameless technique because you do like to name things. And it's a great process that I've learned. Like, remember I had a cyst on my neck. I know that's a little weird to
Yes.
discuss, but we named it, right? I hated
Hmm.
it. I was so angry and it hurt. And you're like, just name it. And I got to be
Yes.
like, oh, there you are, whatever we called it. But
Yes.
suddenly it wasn't my adversary. It was just a thing in my space, right? And I had to shift the intention that I put towards it. This
Yes.
was years ago. I don't even know if you remember,
Yes, I do remember. You just brought
but
it back. Yeah.
the naming of things and giving it okay, there you are again. Thanks for showing up today, but I
Sure.
don't need you anymore, right? That kind of a naming and releasing process, I think is great, right? So if the mindset is I'm always broke, well, thank you. You might have always, not had the money that you want,
At some
but
point. Yeah. Hmm.
what do you want to call yourself now?
Yes.
I'm in search
Yes.
of money. I'm exploring it. And for me, that's also something that we've talked about. I have strange feelings about money. And
Yes.
that's been an unpleasant result
Hmm.
throughout my life, right? Um,
How is it
which
now?
now, I mean, it's better and it's different. I don't hate it. I don't
No?
hate money. I haven't come to the place of like learning to like hard and fast love it, right?
Sure.
Because
And you
there's
may never come to a place of
right.
loving it. Doesn't matter.
But
It's
I
just,
had
mhm,
to, I
mhm,
had to come back to what we talked about earlier, where we live in a capitalistic society where the world
mhm.
tells us that the amount of money we have in our pocket determines some level of our worth. The amount of
Yes.
money in our pocket just allows us to quote self-care for ourselves, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and I just don't believe that. And I think that we very much demonize money, and it can
Yes.
be a really dangerous thing, which is where my open bleeding heart never fell in love with money growing up, right?
Yes.
But now one of the things that you've helped me with is to see it as a currency for the energy, as a
Yes,
way
it
to
is.
bring forth the transaction is not an exchange of money. It's a shifting, right?
It's a
And
wheel.
Yeah, and it's a
It's the
wheel, and that makes me
wheel.
feel better about it,
Yeah,
right?
it's the wheel.
Because that's what it is all about today.
That's
If we lived in a different world, we may not be talking about money, but here we are. Um, and I think it's one of those, people don't want to talk about money, politics, religion, but these are some of the most important conversations to have because it
yes,
determines how we get ourselves to our fate, what gets in the
yes.
way of our fate. Um, so, as you know, I have a lot of spirituality and a history with religion. And in the past few years, I've really been moving with my family closer to religion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have had great open conversations with my pastor, with people at church about some of my questions and some of my
Mm-hmm.
well, that's not my favorite part of church and religion stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you do such a nice job of not naming it, and
Mm-hmm.
you give us all space for the divine source, energy, etc. How how important is it to separate, or is it important to separate religion from the thoughts that you have, or is it more important to build in the inclusion of them to the work that you do? Does that
You
make
ask such
sense?
you ask such the greatest questions, and you put them right in the point. I so love that. The inclusion of everything is um really brings harmony. A
Mhm.
lot of people ask me sometimes, well, what are you? And I went, I don't know. I'm in the center. And I
Mhm.
would say to them, okay, they would ask me, well, is there a religion? I said, well, no, but if I had to really define one, I would go just love. Because I say this a lot. I've never met, I've had people from all type of religions, all miracle mates, all types, all forms. I never met anybody who said to me, I want more struggle and unhappiness. Never once. Now, if anybody have, email Michaela, let us know. I would love to interview that person myself. I've never heard that because we all are striving for peace, love, abundance, and happiness. Everybody, I've never met anybody who said, "Give me the opposite of all of that." Not yet. Now they may be out there. I'm not saying. There's always an exception somewhere. Yet, um, so I think in the center, because remember, I'm not seeing what I'm seeing is not what maybe someone may be seeing in the person. I'm more seeing or witnessing or having experience with the inner core of them. uh Here is another short moment about abundance. What this is interesting. Even though wealth advisors and executives, all of them probably make six figures, I don't know, and probably, I don't know, maybe more than six figures that I'm delegating in at the point in time. I can't see that there's no separation in what that is. I'm just going to the inner nature, that internal part of them. And when I am with that with everybody, then the thing about religion, it fades for me. Their religion is their own. Their spirituality is their own. I don't teach that. After I don't teach anything. I'm just the guide of implementing, illuminating something that we already have.
Yep.
Everybody have it. It's just that my intention of awareness is in that often, probably more often than anything. Often it can, yeah, yeah.
Right.
So I see everybody is um part of the whole. So I don't see if that person is that a Buddhist or that person is a Christian. They may say that to me, yet I don't even go into that arena with them. It's not necessary for what is being done with the nameless technique. So
And
it's
I
different.
think that's a great way to circle right back to that because we start wars over religions because there's a name that they want to hold and keep sacred, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while religion has a great purpose and great value to so many and in so many places, the point is when we pull that family tree of religion all back together, it comes
Mm-hmm.
to the idea of love and connection. And it
Yes.
comes to the working together and moving forward towards something good. So, of course, you're going to see people as just them, just to
Yes.
be identified. And It's when we say, well, you're a Christian and you're a Buddhist, so this conversation won't work out. That's when we lose, in my experience, all of the magic, right?
Yes.
Because when we can understand, even if it's a hostile situation and we're, angry, understanding the opposition and understanding that perspective of the other person, that's the learning, that's the encounter where we can learn, because then we can
Yes.
at least have a little compassion and say, well, now I understand where you're coming from. However, but in today's world where it's, if you're a Christian or if you're a Buddhist, that's it. We forget that we're these other people with hopes and dreams and families and aspirations. And
It is. And and here's a good takeaway moment for people who could be listening. If you are having any uncomfortable moments with someone, maybe not, not agreeing. Usually we get that all the time if they don't agree or
Mhm.
whatever. If they're not agreeing or they're not seeing it the way you see it, here's one thing you can really start to do with yourself in moments like that. And when I just spoke of being a participant and an observer, jump out of being a participant in it for a moment and just jump to the lane of an observer. And people may say, well, how do you do that? In other
Mhm.
words, you want to now put on the observing glasses. And what I mean by that is I want you to take yourself out of what you are going through with them and look at them from an observer point of view. Take a moment and look at it from an observer point of view in this way. Okay, let me see what would be underneath their purpose of thinking this way. What could it be that have um, assisted them in being or thinking this way? Not that we're being wrong. We just want to be an observer for a moment.
Mhm.
And when you do that, after you have a few nuggets around that, um, for an example, if I'm going to use my mother because I like using her for instances. My mother um, used to think that I didn't know I did not really know a lot of things, or I wasn't it didn't seem to her that I was fully adequate in everything because she saw the world the way she saw it. Yet she didn't realize what was happening through me, that she couldn't realize where I was in that moment, in my growth in that moment. And so as I grew up, I always would hear her voice saying, no, you're not doing it right. This is not right. Because, of course, I did the way the world wasn't doing it. I couldn't because of what I was going to be doing later. And
Right.
so I, as I understood this, even though that was such a blessing for her to be that way, because it taught what I mean, everything is a healing encounter. It taught me to be me and to stand in the process of me. So it really was a two-edged sword when we had these things coming at us until we can see that. Um, so my mother, I would still hear her voice sometimes in my head. And I would, instead of criticizing her and being critical about her, then I was able at this moment to say, let me see what would be behind her thinking this way. Okay, she came from a time she felt they didn't have a lot of choices.
Yep.
She had a lot of brothers and sisters. She didn't have enough patience. She was giving out to everybody. So in that moment, my criticalness about her started naturally to transform a little bit because I could see through her eyes why not why, but what was behind her in that way of being.
And even if you weren't certain, it was the possibility that it wasn't
Yes,
about you. The possibility, like, and I do this a lot with the people I work with. Okay, well, why do you think they did that? And it's usually, well,
yes,
they're just mean. They just wanted to. Well, what if that's not the answer? What else
yes,
could it be? And start fantasizing a world where, number one, we're not the center of everyone else's attention, right?
yes, yes,
Our world is very important to us, but a lot, like most of what other people do, is not about us, you
yes.
know? So what could it be? And creating the potential for a different story, right?
That
And
helped
now
the
it's,
story. Yes.
and that for me, that's been great.
That was an opening because at that point you're able to take off all that intensity. Now what that does in the moment when you are doing that, Here's what's naturally happened that people don't realize we all have this inside. We're becoming compassionate. That's a natural ability in everybody. We don't have to make it up. That naturally does that. In that step,
Right.
that automatically goes into that realm of us, because you know what? Underneath the veil, we are compassionate, we are loving, we are abundant filled, we are happy. It's naturally in there. This is a whole nother
We are
topic of another
hardwired
podcast.
for connection.
We are naturally in there. So that naturally takes place when that happens. So someone may say, well, is that will start to happen? Yes, try it.
Yeah.
It naturally would take root because you naturally are that. Go ahead.
That's it. And it doesn't mean when I say, okay, well, now I can understand from their perspective what it could, maybe should, what, or maybe was. It doesn't mean I have to like it. It doesn't mean I have to accept it or forgive it or anything.
But
it lightens my load.
That's the deal.
It reduces the amount that I have to carry of taking ownership and responsibility for their actions, for the blah, blah, blah. And it says, that's not mine.
That's what we want.
Because you have free will.
Exactly.
And I'm moving toward my fate. And
yes.
That's it.
Yes. And I want to read something here about free will, that I heard this long ago, and it's very powerful. People can take this into. Your mind is the means by which you determine your own condition, because your mind is the mechanism of decision. So it is the power by which you separate or join an experience, pain or joy accordingly. Your decision cannot overcome let's just say the universe, nature, natural, whatever you want to call your spirituality, that decision of that cannot overcome your decision, because your decision is as powerful as whatever you are resonating with in your spirituality or in your oneness or whatever. Your decision, it cannot override. So now I want to use this abundance thing about the young lady I talked about. It's going to tie this up really well. And when I said to her, be a participant, and let's look at it. There is a lot of abundance in the world. Yes, we know. We see people. We see they're getting paid. Oh, to play the sports. We don't even talk about the sports arena. Okay. Now, even though she may have been experiencing that temporary lackness, money is still going on. But her mind was the mechanism of changing that. So that abundance could not override. It could not come to her or fall towards her, because it could not override what she was thinking about being in lack, because her power is just as strong as it happening or not happening. When I read that, I went, oh my goodness, I forgot where I got it from. Maybe because I don't know. Your mind, it cannot over, because we are that powerful. We are these co-creators. Yes, 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 but we must wake up to that part of our being. Now, just because we're not awake, we're not going to be at fault. There is no fault, no guilt, no anything. When you are awake to the real truth, no one can fail who seeks to reach the truth. But if you don't seek it, and if you're not awake to it, then okay. So in other words, even though the money is still circulating, it could not overpower what she was thinking about her in her abundance. I am in lack. I don't have enough. Because her decision and her mental capacity of that is strong as saying, okay, it is enough. Yeah. Your mind, free will.
I love it. I love when you get excited.
Yes.
I love when you get excited. It just, and what I love so much about it is you're really just delivering a message to us. This isn't Wanda's thought. This isn't your.
That we already know.
This is
we already know this.
Our invitation to remember that we do have agency, that we do have every day. an
Yes.
invitation to redefine ourselves. And
Every
sometimes it's
day.
very small ways, right?
Yes.
Very small ways, and we used to spend a lot of time just talking about um, meetings or this aspect, or it
Yes.
was all to shift my perspective, all to
Yes.
get me to say, well, what if it's not that? Well, what if I'm not that? What if I could be? And it just kept, for me, it keeps building upon that. And I think, I think that you are a gift. We know this.
You
You
are
are a
too.
gift, but you are a gift because we all are a gift. But
Yeah.
you have chosen this service time and time again. And you've shared stories of your journey and experience, but it has always stayed true to the core of service.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
how do you, in this world where, you know, there's so many people, there's so many things going on. What is next for you, and how are you planning to amplify this gift that you have? Because, you
Mm.
know, we need more Wanda. We need more of this voice, in
Ah,
my opinion,
it's like,
inviting people to grow, to and not even to like to change yet, right? But just to continue to find the perspective to grow in person, in our personal lives and in business. So what's next for Wanda?
that's interesting. You would say that. I am, when I hear this, I am, the word I am, every time I hear I am, I go, hmm. Um, in this moment, it seems that the universe is called for me to put together online courses for business. Well, what business for anybody who's starting a business or going to create the business or ongoing in the business. Also, I'm doing something called a website called Swift Advice for Life, which is going to be where you can be able to get these techniques at your disposal, and a newsletter just as at once. So it's all coming together now because the expansion now has happened and it's calling to expand in these directions so
Oh,
that
this
it
is
can really go out
exciting.
to, yeah, a multitude of people. So I'm glad you asked. And that's coming up soon. That's in development right now as we speak.
Swift
And
advice for life.
yes, Swift
I love
Advice for
it.
Life.
Talk about meeting people where they are, right? In a world where everything is swift and swipe. But what we really need is not more TikTok videos. What we need is real tactical advice and insights to help
Yes,
us get through.
yes.
And that's what it is, right? Like,
Yes, it's a multitude of that website is going to be a multitude of go-to information, on point for this, for that, instant transaction that you want to really move through. And yeah, so it would really be encouraging and yeah, inspiring, and it's going to be available. You'll be able to get a monthly newsletter that's going to be really informative. Just taking it to another height of heights. And as it goes through me, I'm going, okay. Now I've had this on I call it the evergreen list. I always tell people, always put down your evergreen thoughts. You never know when they're going to happen. It could be 2 years from now because there's no timing really. We just give it time because we need to do that for some apparent reason. I think we need to the timing probably maybe want to keep us we have to be motivated, but we don't need to be motivated by time. All we need to do is tune in, tap in, and that motivation will naturally start to take effect. It's just the purpose. It's just what we all are here for, actually. Everybody is here for that. uh, so you'll be able to see what you like, see what you're interested in. It's going to be some humor. So we're going to have it's really going to be something. But I'm glad you asked.
gotta
And that's
have
up
some
and coming.
humor,
Yeah, a
right? You
couple
gotta have
months in
some
the making,
laughter.
but it's development now. Yeah, so which
Well,
is good.
I mean, and that's the truth, right?
Yes,
When we pursue our path, when we seek to bring to life our fate, right? Like you
yes,
said, you're being called to do this. We are definitely not guaranteed an easy journey. I will
right.
say that my time in this particular part of my journey with you,
Yes,
where you've been a participant with me,
yes.
um, has not been fun, pleasant all the time.
Oh wow! Right, we've had some rides, right? I called
We've
it
had a lot of fun, but my
mhm.
goodness, it has been really um not
Amusement park
hard, but
ride.
bumpy, right? Like,
Amusement park rides, which I'm writing about
yeah,
that too as we speak.
absolutely. It's totally,
Yeah.
it's a ride, but what we have to remember is it goes up and down and it goes up and down. And if we think it's only going to be up, we're crazy, right? We're setting
Yes.
ourselves up for stress because everything worth doing will have some effort, right?
Yes.
No matter what it is. And even if it's a small consequence, our choices have consequences, right? And
Yes.
you showed me
Yes.
your planner at one point in time during the deep development of this, and it made
I'll
my
tell
head
you.
hurt and my watch started spinning out, just because,
Yes.
but that was the choice and the commitment because doing big things requires
Yes.
big commitment and big support and big uh, planning
Yes.
and a planner to make sure you get it all done and don't forget the stuff.
Can you
Um,
imagine a planner like that going on for years? It could not have happened.
nope. And you did it, and I cannot wait to see what it is. So if we want to follow along with the Wanda Harris to see what's coming up next, where can people find you and
Okay.
what
Let
should
me
we look
give you
for?
I'm going to give you my email. It's okay. I'm going to give you my phone number. I'm open and accessible. Personalitymirroring@yahoo.com. All one word.
Mhm.
PersonaliTy mirroring MIRRORING @yahoo.com. Now you're going to laugh because my daughter goes, "You still using at Yahoo?" Yes,
Mhm.
I am. I'm not changing it. Why? It's just an email.
If it ain't
Yes, I
broke,
don't care. What does it mean? I don't
yep.
know. I'm in labels. I have no idea. Okay. And I went personality mirroring. Wow, they gave me that long title, but I'm keeping it just as well. And my phone number is 973-418-2219.
Hmm.
And yeah, so feel free to contact me, call me. You can all, and sometimes I always say it's better to text
Yeah.
because usually when I see the text right away. The call sometimes goes to the call, and I check those probably once every other
Yep.
day, only because texting now has been the way of whatever we're following through. And it makes it easy and simple. And then I can look right at it directly when I see it. And I want it to be easy and accessible for everybody. So, yes, this has been such a moment of a moment. But if everybody can take away that observer and participant, that's one of
I
the
think
many
you're right.
techniques that I use. You'll be able to have a, they'll be able to have a takeaway to use instantly and
Mhm.
see what happens for you in that. It will soften that because we already had that ability. We
Yep.
already compassionate by nature. We just
Yep.
forgot.
And I can give a firsthand testimonial that it works.
Ah,
Personal or
I
the
love that.
perspective, the observer. So I thank
Yes.
you for the work that you do with me, my family, and the people I love, and
Ah,
the work beyond those I don't know yet.
yeah.
And I just am grateful that you have continued to choose a life of service.
Yes.
And I just remain humbled by
And
you.
thank you for being willing and able and taking us on this journey. I can't do without you. What you see in me is in you. What I see in you is in me. So we're just one. You and I can finish each other's sentences sometimes, when we're on a call a lot. I go, keep going, and we're going, and we don't want to hang up. An
Yep.
hour can turn to 2 hours or 3 hours, knowing she has a family, have to get to things. We can go on. But thank you so much.
You are a gift, Wanda. Thank you so much. And to everyone else, go be so fabulous. The world can't stand it. And we'll catch you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
And that's a wrap on another episode of And All the Things. If you enjoyed today's show, please like and follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. If you really liked it, please go ahead and rate it. Then think about who in your life might also need to hear it and any of the other episodes we have shared. Then share it with them. When you find something meaningful, something valuable, you've got to share it and pay it forward to those you care for. Thanks for joining us, and follow along on Instagram at MyJoyCoach to see more of me, your host, Michaela Birdyshaw. And as always, make it a great day.